Hey, folks, welcome again to the 17th Annual Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. I am Program Director James Sullivan, and we are conducting interviews with some of the directors of some of our fantastic feature films that we're going to be showing in a few weeks. Film Festival, September 17th through the 26th, in sort of a hybrid format this year for obvious reasons. We have the co-directors of one of our most powerful features with us today, Lisa and Jeff of the film Missing in Brooks County. What I'd like to do right now first is I'm going to mention what the film is about, which is it is about the border debate over the Texas border with Mexico, and specifically about families whose loved ones have tried to make that border crossing to get here to America to a new life and have gone missing. A very powerful film, as I mentioned. Let's take a look at the trailer, and then I'll introduce the co-directors.
The federal government thinks if you put the Border Patrol station 60 miles north, Jose is going to be stupid enough to go through there and then you'll catch him. And that's not true. The Border Patrol station is making these people walk in that deep sand with very little water.
Sheriff's Office, let me help you?
I'm trying to have some information regarding a family member who is missing.
There's been a lot of missing people.
We realized there was a big problem along the border, and I don't think anybody realized just how big it was. Thousands of people have died.
An illegal alien crosser is an illegal alien crosser. It's black and white, it's not gray. We're in a war zone here.
This is the South Texas Human Rights Center.
It's beautifully shot, it's intense, and it speaks in a way to this border debate that I don't think we've necessarily seen in the sort of national discourse to this point. Please welcome Lisa Molomot and Jeff Bemiss, the co-directors of the film. Thanks for being here, folks.
Thanks,
Hi,
James.
So simple question for starters. Let's see, Lisa, you're based in Arizona, correct? And Jeff, where are you based?
Connecticut.
Oh, you're in Connecticut. Okay. So tell me, simply how you came across this part of the border debate story and how you decided to go about filming it.
Well, I think we got started making this because we heard a radio documentary about a forensic scientist at Baylor University in Waco, Texas, who was doing exhumations of anonymously buried migrant crossers in South Texas. And we were both really moved by the story. Lisa lives in a border town. She sees this issue and with the students that she teaches there and her community. I have a sister-in-law from Mexico, but for whatever reason, it really touched us. And we reached out to Lori Baker, and she invited us to Texas, and she took us down to this place called Falfurrias. And we said, okay, where's the border? She said, oh no, that's 80 miles away. This is Brooks County. It's not even a border county, but this is where the problem is. And I think that it was at that moment when the film sort of pivoted for us.
Mm-hmm. And that team of forensic specialists at the school, right, are become a big part of the story in the film.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that,
go ahead, Lisa.
that was actually, so Lori teaches at Baylor University, and her colleague Kate Spradley, who's in the film, teaches at Texas State University. And we, at a certain point, pretty early on, we realized we were going to focus on Dr. Spradley's work because the other forensic scientist has sort of moved on from the work. So, like every documentary, like it just, over the course of 4 years, you learn more, your story changes, it becomes bigger, more complicated. So I think we thought we were making a short film about a forensic scientist, and it became a much, much bigger project. Even from that first time in Falfurrias, we were like, oh, okay, this is a lot more complicated than we initially thought, this story.
How does no one in the country as far as I know, other than the folks who live in and around this county, 60 or 80 miles from the, Mexico border, understand that this is a big part of the problem?
I'm not sure we have the answer to that. There has been a lot of fine reporting and journalism done, but it just hasn't permeated. Kate Spradley, who's featured in the film, she likes to say that if the situation were something dramatic like a war zone or a genocide, there'd be attention, there'd be money. But, migration is quiet. It's very different. You people walk into the desert and they vanish, and Mother Nature cleans up the evidence. So it's very hard to create a sense of urgency that I think would sort of catapult this into the collective consciousness, or certainly that would create the political will to really change the situation.
And I also think the numbers reported by Border Patrol are quite low because, as you learn in the film, this story is about the people who are missing and never found. So these ranches are private ranches in South Texas. They're huge. The biggest one, I think, is half the state of Rhode Island. So you get a sense of how huge these ranches are, and the remains get covered and disappear, and so the Border Patrol is reporting numbers, but they're not as high as the actual number of people missing. And so I think if people understood the numbers we were talking about, they would be alarmed, but because they don't know these numbers, maybe it just doesn't seem like that many people. I don't know, but this has been going on for decades in multiple states. And yeah, it's a really good question, and we don't have the answer to it.
Right. And a lot of the people whose remains are recovered are never identified. Right. So the family still doesn't know what happened to them, or whether in fact their remains were found. What's the number that you quote? I think 20,000, but what is it at some point in the film? But is that over a period of years that's how many have gone missing, or what's the number?
Well, in the film, we report 20,000 over the past decade all along the southwest border. And that's a presumed number based on the experts' best prediction or projection, because the sheriff of Brooks County feels, based on his evidence, that only 1 in 5 people who go missing are actually found.
And when I talk to people, academics who are doing research in this area, and I presented them with, like, what would you say, 10,000? Would you say 15,000? Would you say 20,000? I was trying to get a number because we just don't know. And every time I said a number, they said, you're being very conservative.
Mm-hmm. How do you two know each other, and what other projects have you worked on together?
So we both taught at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and then since then I've moved to Arizona, but we have never collaborated before. Jeff comes from mostly a scripted background, fiction filmmaking. A little bit of documentary, but mostly fiction filmmaking. Mm-hmm. I'm mostly documentary, but also some fiction filmmaking as well. And I had seen some of Jeff's work before we worked together, and I was like, I'd love to work with Jeff. But unfortunately, I moved to Tucson, and then I think I was in Tucson for like a few months, and I'm already getting an email from him, saying, hey, check out this story. And I was like, I don't know if I'm quite ready. I just moved. I don't know if I'm quite ready to jump into a project. And good thing is I didn't really know what I was jumping into when I agreed to it. So that was the good thing.
Right. It ended up being a 4-year endeavor, really, just the filming part of it to document what was happening there. So,
Jeff, are you still teaching at Trinity?
I am. Yes.
Okay. And you're coming up, I think, right? We'll talk about that later.
Looking forward to it. Yes.
But you can make yourself available to talk about the film after we screen it, right? Okay. You mentioned before we went live here that you're currently in a hotel room where you're on our feed from because you're doing a tour, right? So you want to tell me how it's going so far? You've screened the film every night in various cities over the last week or two, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, we started in Houston. at the Alamo Draft House in Houston, and the Roman family joined us for that screening, which was really special. And they participated in the live Q&A there. And then we did.
And this is one of the this is one of the families who's looking for a loved one, and are one of the prime figures in the film, right?
That's right. I forget everyone hasn't seen the film yet. But so that was special, having the family that's featured in the film there. And then we had a screening on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, outdoors, COVID safe. And then we had a screening last night with the new students at Texas State who will be working with Dr. Spradley, who is featured in the film. So these are students that are coming in that know very little about this. And this is their introduction to the context of why they're going to be doing this work. And that was outdoors on the Freeman Ranch at the Body Farm, where they do the forensic science at Texas State. That was really wonderful. It was quite a turnout, actually. And then we go down to South Texas, Brownsville, McAllen, and these are all border towns. And then the big Brooks County screening. We're going to do an outdoor evening screening, and we're going to do a daytime screening for, more of the people who are, well, it's all for the community, really. The community is so involved in this. I don't know if you want to say anything, Jeff, more about Brooks County screening, but it was really important to us to do a big Brooks County screening.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're going to have, the idea is to bring together the community members, the stakeholders in this. So ranchers, law enforcement, there may be, we don't know, Border Patrol may show up. Certainly some of the activists and the humanitarian aid workers. So it's going to be, from what we understand, the turnout may be quite big. We're really looking forward to it, because really nobody in Brooks County has seen the film yet. So.
And they all know about it.
Right.
So.
Of course. Right. There was a film crew poking around for 4 years, right?
But there we go.
There we are. Yeah. So that's Eddie Canales there in the sheriff's office, actually. And the sheriff is going to be there, Benny Martinez, who really made this film possible.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to it.
Yep.
Doing a little research there with Border Patrol.
He was the sector chief when we were there, and I think he moved on to another position. That was
right. So we all know that this debate has been raging for years and really decades, but certainly in the last few years we're heated up all over again. What have the responses been like? I mean, has it been mostly a productive conversation after you screen the film, or have there been moments of, sort of clashing? You represent really well, I think, in the film, the idea that there are people very much of two, some have one mind, some have another mind about this issue. But so what have the reactions been like to the screenings?
Well, we are in Texas now, so it's different. We've been screening the film at film festivals. That's one audience, but we're in Texas now. So the San Antonio screening was interesting because there were some conservative people in the audience and asking questions, trying to get their point of view across a bit, but they really softened up. This is a human story, and that was very, very interesting, and I think they found the film powerful.
Yeah.
One thing is, we don't really feel that the film is an overtly political film. It's a human film. It's a humanitarian film. I think that's fair. But what we tried to do is to sort of, again, to do this sort of 360-degree view and just treat the audience like they're capable of making up their own mind and figuring out what kind of country they want to have. It doesn't lecture to you. But in order to do that, in order to decide what kind of policies you want to have, you need to witness. You need to see what's happening. And what's happening in Brooks County is so extreme, you really do have to see it in order to just wrap your mind around it.
And without giving anything away, there were some difficult choices to make, what we show, what we don't show. Mm-hmm. Film, like, how much do people need to see? Like, what's going to make people understand how serious this is? And I won't say anything more, but, that was something that we really went back and forth on, because we're talking about people dying. And how graphic do you need it to be? And, what's going to make people wake up and understand what's going on?
Right. So that's what the main thing that I think and probably lots of others who have seen the film so far really appreciated most about it was that, Lisa, as you said, it's a people story. It's not a political story. And it's just devastating what these, you can put yourself. I think that the debate is usually about numbers, right? How many people are coming? Can we take them in? Are they going to take jobs? And this is about people, real people who are really losing real family members for, unnecessary reasons. They're trying to come to a better life and they get stuck out in the middle of nowhere in a desert situation with no end in sight and no water, no clean water to be had, and they die. Right. So it's very powerful. And I just appreciate you both making it and appreciate that you're willing to share a little time with us to talk about it so that we can make sure that we get as many people as possible to watch it through the Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. So as you, I think you both said, without giving it too much away, we could talk for hours, but we'll do that after the actual screening. Thanks in the meantime for talking to me now. And we would just like to make sure before we say, I'll say first that please keep an eye out for our full schedule, which we will be releasing any minute now. And join us beginning September 17th through the 26th in a hybrid version of the Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. Thanks again, Lisa and Jeff. And we would just like to go out by thanking our chief sponsors. Thanks again. See you next time. All good?